Steinberg Cubase 12 Pro. We are starting the lesson. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so as not to miss new videos. And we begin. Global meter settings menu. You can change the meter characteristics for audio channels using the context menu of the channel meter. Right-click the channel meter and select one of the following options from the global meter settings menu. Meter peak, hold peaks. If this option is activated, the highest registered levels are held and shown as static horizontal lines in the meter. Meter peak, hold forever. If this option is activated, the peak levels are shown until you reset the meters. If this option is deactivated, you can use the meter's peak hold time parameter in the Preferences dialog, metering page, to specify for how long the peak levels are held. The peak hold time can be between 500 and 30,000 milliseconds. Meter position, input. If this option is activated, the meters show input levels for all audio channels and input-output channels. The input meters are post-input gain. Meter position, post-fader. If this option is activated, the meters show post-fader levels. Meter position, post-panner. If this option is activated, the meters show post-fader levels and also reflect pan settings. Reset meters. Resets the meters. Volume. Setting up meter colors. Setting up meter colors. Setting up meter colors can help you to keep an overview of what levels are being reached. Procedure. In the Preferences dialog, select Metering Appearance. Select a scale from the Scale pop-up menu for editing. Note: the +3 dB digital scale is used in the channel meters. Do one of the following to set the level position for a color change. Double-click a level position to the right of the meter scale and enter the level, dB, value. To enter dB value smaller than 0, add a minus sign before the entered number. Click a level position and drag it to a specific level. Press Shift for more accurate positioning. Click a level position and nudge it up or down with the up arrow/down arrow keys. Press Shift for faster positioning. Click the upper or lower part of a color handle so that a frame is shown. In the color picker, select a color. Selecting the same color for the upper and lower part of the handle results in a meter that changes its colors gradually. Different colors indicate level changes even more precisely. Note: to add more color handles, click Add, or Alt-click at a level position to the right of the meter scale. Each new handle is automatically associated with a default color. To remove a handle, select the handle and click Remove, or Ctrl/CMD click the handle. Click OK. Related links. Metering, Appearance. Global meter settings menu. Level meters. Level meters. The channel meters show the level when you play back audio or MIDI. The meter peak level indicator shows the highest registered level. To reset the peak level, Alt/Opt click the meter peak level value. Note: input and output channels have clipping indicators. When they light up, lower the gain or the levels until the indicator is no longer lit. Setting up meter colors. Input levels. Input levels. When recording digital sound, it is important to set the input levels high enough to ensure low noise and high audio quality. At the same time, you must avoid clipping, digital distortion. Level meters. Setting input levels. Setting input levels. In the MixConsole, you can set the input level. Make sure that the signal is loud enough but does not exceed 0 dB. Procedure. Select Functions menu, Global meter settings, a meter position and activate input. In this mode, the input channel level meters show the level of the signal at the input of the bus, before any adjustments, such as input gain, EQ, effects, level, or pan are made. This allows you to check the level of the unprocessed signal coming into the audio hardware. Play back the audio, and check the level meter for the input channel. The signal should be as loud as possible without exceeding 0 dB, that is, the clipping indicator for the input bus should not light up. If necessary, adjust the input level in one of the following ways. Adjust the output level of the sound source or the external mixer. If possible, use the application program of the audio hardware to set the input levels. Refer to the documentation for the audio hardware. If your audio hardware supports the ASIO control panel function, it may be possible to make input level settings. To open the ASIO control panel, select Studio as Studio Setup. In the Devices list, select your audio card. When this is selected, you can open the control panel by clicking Control Panel in the Settings section to the right. Optional, select Functions menu, Global meter settings, a meter position and activate post-fader. Note: this allows you to check the level of the audio being written to a file on your hard disk, which is only necessary if you make any adjustments to the input channel. Optional, in the Channel Rack section, in the Inserts rack, click a slot and select an effect, or in the Equalizers rack, make your EQ settings. For some effects, you may want to adjust the level of the signal going into the effect. Use the input gain function for this. Press Shift or Alt/Opt to adjust the input gain. Play back the audio, and check the level meter of the input channel. The signal should be reasonably loud without exceeding 0 dB, that is, the clipping indicator for the input bus should not light up. If necessary, use the input channel fader to adjust the signal level. Input levels. Clipping. Clipping. Clipping typically occurs in the audio hardware when an analog signal is too loud and therefore converted to digital in the A/D converters of the hardware. Clipping can also occur when the signal from the input bus is written to a file on your hard disk. The reason for this is that you can make settings for the input bus, adding EQ, effects, etc. to the signal while it is being recorded. This may raise the level of the signal, which causes clipping in the recorded audio file. Setting input levels. Channel racks. Channel racks. The channel rack section contains specific MixConsole functions, such as routing, insert, or send handling. These are organized in racks. Note: the MixConsole in the lower zone of the project window features the inserts and the sends rack only. Related links. Routing. Pre, filters / gain / phase. Inserts. Equalizers, EQ. Channel strips. Sends. Q sends. Direct routing. Track quick controls. Device panels. Clipping. Copying and moving rack and channel settings. Copying and moving rack and channel settings. You can use drag and drop to copy or move rack and channel settings. Note: this function is only available in the MixConsole window. Drag and drop works between different channels or different rack slots on the same channel. When you drag, a visual feedback indicates the sections where you can drop your settings. The following applies. To move the rack settings from one rack to another, drag the rack, and drop it on the rack to which you want to move the settings. To copy the rack settings from one rack to another, press Alt/Opt, drag the rack, and drop it on the rack to which you want to copy the settings. To copy the channel settings from one channel to another, drag the channel, and drop it on the channel to which you want to copy the settings. To copy the channel settings from one channel to another, including the direct routing and output routing settings, press Alt/Opt, drag the channel, and drop it on the channel to which you want to copy the settings. You can copy rack and channel settings between different types of channels, provided that the target channels have corresponding settings. For example, copying from input/output channels leaves the send settings in the target channel unaffected. For projects with surround sound, any insert effects that are routed to surround speaker channels become muted when the settings are pasted to a mono or stereo channel. Channel racks. Routing. Routing. The routing rack allows you to configure input and output routing, that is, setting up input and output buses. Note: this channel rack is only available in the MixConsole window. Input buses are used when you record on an audio track. In this case, you must select from which input bus to receive the audio. Note: the settings that you make for the input channel become a permanent part of the recorded audio file. Output buses are used when you play back an audio, group, or FX channel. In this case, you must route the channel to an output bus. Copying and moving rack and channel settings. Setting up routing. Setting up routing. You can set up the input and output buses in the routing rack of the MixConsole. Prerequisite: set up buses and group channels in the Audio Connections window. Procedure: on the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks, and activate routing to show the routing rack above the fader section. Click one of the slots of the routing rack to open the input or the output routing pop-up menu for a channel. In the routing selector, select an entry. To set up the routing for multiple selected channels simultaneously, press Shift-Alt/Opt and select a bus. To set several selected channels to incrementing buses, the second selected channel to the second bus, the third to the third bus, etc., press Shift and select a bus. To disconnect input or output bus assignments, select No Bus. Routing. Input buses. Input buses. The input routing selector only lists buses that correspond to the channel configuration. Note: if you select a group channel as the input for an audio channel, you can record a down mix. Setting up routing. Input routing configurations for mono channels. Input routing configurations for mono channels. For mono channels, the following input routing configurations are available. Mono input buses or individual channels within a stereo or surround input bus. External inputs that are configured on the Control Room tab of the Audio Connections window. These can be mono or individual channels within a stereo or surround bus. They can also be routed to the talkback input. Mono output buses, mono group output buses, or mono FX channel output buses. These should not lead to feedback. Related links. Routing. Input buses. Input routing configurations for stereo channels. Input routing configurations for stereo channels. For stereo channels, the following input routing configurations are available. Mono or stereo input buses or stereo child buses within a surround bus. External inputs that are configured on the Control Room tab of the Audio Connections window. These can be mono input buses or stereo input buses. They can also be routed to the talkback input. Mono or stereo output buses, mono or stereo group output buses, and mono or stereo FX channel output buses. These should not lead to feedback. Related links. Routing. Input routing configurations for mono channels. Input routing configurations for surround channels. Input routing configurations for surround channels. For surround channels, the following input routing configurations are available. Surround input buses. External inputs that are configured on the Control Room tab of the Audio Connections window. These must have the same input configuration. Output buses. These must have the same input configuration and should not lead to feedback. Related links. Routing. Input routing configurations for stereo channels. Output buses. Output buses. For output buses, any assignment is possible. You can route the output of audio, instrument, group, and FX channels to output, group, FX channels, or use it as effect sidechain source. Routing the outputs from multiple audio channels to a group allows you to control the channel levels using one fader, and to apply the same effects and equalization to all the channels. Input routing configurations for surround channels. Using group channels. Using group channels. You can route the outputs from multiple audio channels to a group. This enables you to control the channel levels using one fader, apply the same effects and EQ to all channels, etc. You can also select a group channel as the input for an audio track, to record a down mix of separate tracks, for example. Prerequisite. You have created and set up a group channel track in stereo. Procedure. Route the group channel track to an output bus. Add effects to the group channel as insert effects. Route the mono audio track to the group channel. Result. The signal from the mono audio track is sent directly to the group, where it passes through the insert effect in stereo. Output buses. Pre, filters / gain / phase. Pre, filters / gain / phase. The pre-rack for audio-related channels features a high cut and a low cut filter as well as gain and phase settings. Note. This channel rack is only available in the MixConsole window. For MIDI channels, the pre-rack allows you to open the input transformer. Note. You cannot edit the pre-rack settings in the EQ curve display. Related links. Track input transformer window overview. Equalizer settings. Using group channels. Making filter settings. Making filter settings. Each audio-related channel has separate high-cut and low-cut filters that allow you to attenuate signals with frequencies that are higher or lower than the cutoff frequency. Procedure. On the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks, and activate Pre, Filters / Gain / Phase, to show the pre-rack above the fader section. Click to the left of the high-cut filter to activate the high-cut filter. You have the following options. Drag the slider to adjust the cutoff frequency. The available range spans from 20 kHz to 50 Hz. Click Select Filter Slope on the right of the high-cut filter to select a filter slope. You can choose between 6, 12, 24, 36, and 48 dB. The default value is 12 dB. Click to the left of the low-cut filter to activate the low-cut filter. You have the following options. Drag the slider to adjust the cutoff frequency. The available range spans from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Click Select Filter Slope on the right of the low-cut filter to select a filter slope. You can choose between 6, 12, 24, 36, and 48 dB. The default value is 12 dB. Result. The changed settings are visible in the curve display. If you deactivate the high-cut and low-cut filters, the filter curves are removed from the display. Bypassed high-cut and low-cut filters are displayed in a different color. Pre, filters / gain / phase. Making input gain settings. Making input gain settings. The pre-gain slider allows you to change the level of a signal before it reaches the EQ and the effects section. This is useful, as the level going into certain effects can change the way the signal is affected. A compressor, for example, can be driven harder by raising the input gain. You can also use gain to boost the level of poorly recorded signals. Procedure. On the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks, and activate Pre, Filters / Gain / Phase, to show the pre-rack above the fader section. Drag the gain slider to the left or to the right to cut or boost the gain. Making filter settings. Making phase settings. Making phase settings. Each audio-related channel and input/output channel has a phase button that allows you to correct the phase for balance lines and microphones that are wired backwards or that are out of phase due to their positioning. Procedure. On the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks and activate Pre, Filters / Gain / Phase, to show the pre-rack above the fader section. Activate phase to invert the phase polarity for the signal. Making input gain settings. Inserts. Inserts. The inserts rack for audio-related channels features insert effect slots that allow you to load insert effects for a channel. For MIDI channels, you can load MIDI inserts. For further information, see the separate document plugin reference. Related links. Audio effects. Making phase settings. Adding insert effects. Adding insert effects. You can add insert effects into MixConsole channels. Procedure. On the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks, and activate inserts to show the inserts rack above the fader section. Click one of the insert slots to open the insert selector. Click an insert effect to select it. Result. The selected insert effect is loaded and automatically activated. Its plugin panel opens. Inserts. Changing the number of pre-fader / post-fader slots. Changing the number of pre-fader / post-fader slots. For each audio-related channel, you can add pre-fader and post-fader inserts, and you can adjust their number. Procedure. Do one of the following. Right-click and insert effect in a pre-fader position. From the context menu, select Set as last pre-fader slot. Click and drag the separator for pre-/post-fader slots up or down. Result. The number of pre-fader and post-fader slots is adjusted. The color and the separator line show which effect is pre-fader and which effect is post-fader. Adding insert effects. Bypassing insert effects. Bypassing insert effects. You can bypass all insert effects. To bypass all inserts, click Bypass at the top of the inserts rack. To bypass a single insert, click the button on the left of the insert slot. To deactivate bypass, click the button again. Changing the number of pre-fader/post-fader slots. Activating side chaining for inserts. Activating side chaining for inserts. Some of the inserts feature side chain functionality. Procedure. Right-click and insert effect. From the context menu, select Activate/deactivate side chaining. Bypassing insert effects. Saving/loading FX chain presets. Saving/loading FX chain presets. You can save and load all insert rack settings using FX chain presets. FX chain presets have the file name extension .xchain preset. Procedure. In the top right corner of the inserts rack, open the presets pop-up menu, and perform one of the following actions. To save the current settings as a preset, select Save FX Chain Preset and name your preset. To load a preset, select Load FX Chain Preset and select a preset. Note: you can also apply inserts with EQ and channel strip settings from track presets. You can load, tag, and save FX Chain presets in the MediaBay. Activating side chaining for inserts. Equalizers, EQ. Equalizers, EQ. The Equalizers, EQ, rack is only available for audio-related channels. It features a built-in parametric equalizer with up to 4 bands for each audio channel. Note: this channel rack is only available in the MixConsole window. Saving/loading FX chain presets. Activating equalizer bands. Activating equalizer bands. On the EQ rack, you can activate up to 4 EQ bands for each audio channel. Procedure. On the MixConsole toolbar, click Racks, and activate equalizers to show the EQ rack above the fader section. Click Activate/deactivate band to activate an EQ band. Equalizers, EQ. Equalizer settings.